Hi, everyone. I'm Meryl Stewart, CEO of Marketing and Business Solutions. And this week I wanted to talk to you about diversifying revenue streams. You know what I'm talking about? It's that place where we all get really anxious when we have all of our eggs in one basket. And this past week has been interesting. We've had a couple client projects where we've had a lot of conversation about this. So I thought it just seemed appropriate to talk about it today. So, when we think about revenue, especially fundraising for nonprofits and, your different sales and revenue streams in the for-profit side, we really try to kind of find some balance. I don't think anyone feels really good when all the money is coming from one or two major sources. In most cases, if you're a small business or even if you're a large company, having diversification from the different streams of revenue are important. It puts us at ease so that if there's a dip in one area, then we can kind of recover in another. From a business development standpoint, it allows us to kind of serve clients across, various industries or types of service and products. So it's something that's important. It kind of came up in conversation this week, especially with one of our nonprofit clients who, has traditionally had revenue kind of really hyper focused from just one or two sources. Makes it really scary when the market is changing and the needs of the community is changing and they're looking for additional funding in order to continue their mission. So we've had a lot of conversations this week about, well, what does that look like? How do you plan for it? Where do you start looking for opportunities? And so I wanted to share some ideas with you. Let's start with the nonprofit sector. In the nonprofit sector, I think a lot of times our funders, even though they have very focused missions of their own and work that they want to fund, a lot of times we kind of get into a bit of a pickle sometimes with trying to take our programs, take our services, fit them in a box that meets the funders' needs, that drives those metrics that we can report on, so that that money that we're using makes the most sense for the funder and for the organization. But sometimes what can happen is that we kind of have this mission drift that sometimes as an organization, we're not necessarily, kind of playing in the same space that's core to our values and who we are. We're kind of, going off mission in order for the money to come in because we need the money to operate and pay expenses and pay people and hire experts and serve the community. There's nothing necessarily wrong with wanting to expand to serve more people, but I think that or whatever your organization focuses on. But I think what's important to remember is that when you have funding that really dictates how you can operate those programs, it might be time to look at some additional sources. Doesn't mean get rid of the ones that you have, but it means that we just need to create a little bit of a nest egg and some safety in other areas that you can find funding. And so looking at private foundations, starting a fundraising program if you don't have one, looking at potential corporate partners or people in the community that have an affinity for what you do, and starting to build some messaging and reaching out and having meetings about what it is that you really want to do and how they might see themselves in that solution. The other area that's kind of a place that I think nonprofits especially are thriving is in that social enterprise place. What is it intellectually? What is your intellectual property, or what is it that you do that is uniquely yours, that could be marketed, packaged, kind of resold or repackaged in a way to then offer as a service to maybe another nonprofit or a local business. So thinking about how to generate revenue in different ways as an organization. On the for-profit side, this really kind of ties on both sides of the table, but putting yourself in your client's shoes. What is it that they need that you're not doing or offering? What is it that they, are looking for to help solve a problem that maybe you already have the answer to, but you just really haven't packaged your services or products that way? So looking at, to your clients for feedback is a great place to start. On the nonprofit side, looking at, your clients as well for feedback to find out how better you can serve them or what else you can do to better meet their needs are great places to look for additional solutions and start brainstorming. The second piece is to stay on brand. It doesn't matter what facet of business that you're in. I've said this before, that nonprofits, you're not a business, you're a business. You just have a tax designation that's different. So operating as a business is important, and staying on brand is important. Staying true to those values of what exactly you do and how exactly you do it and why it's important that it's done that way What makes you unique in the marketplace compared to other organizations or businesses that do what you do? So staying on brand sometimes can help you think outside the box in areas that maybe you haven't tried, to expand to before, maybe other referral sources that would be open to doing some type of collaborative agreement at this point. Might be places to look for additional sources of revenue, but something that also stays true to who you are. Another area to take a look at is kind of this internal challenge, right? So you have employees, you may have subcontractors, and you have volunteers, but you have other stakeholders that are participating in your business, whether you acknowledge that they're actively involved or not. But they're a great source of information. And so maybe taking some type of meeting or internal challenge or a way for people to creatively submit ideas on ways that they think that you can generate additional revenue. Maybe it's repurposing a service or product that you have in slightly different way that happens to meet the needs of a different audience. And there's not really a whole lot of cost to tweaking that, but it opens up a whole nother level of revenue. On the nonprofit side, it might be that you're providing a different service or product a slightly different way. Maybe access is different, and that opens up opportunities to find additional funding. So it doesn't always mean starting from scratch. Sometimes it's just tapping into your internal resources to see what ideas they have to come up with to get you to where you want to go. And, I think the last thing I'll say is you need to be thinking short term and long term. What are the things that you can do now that maybe you haven't been able to do and you might not ever do again? But they are short-term needs that you see in the next 3 to 6 months that can best position you as, an expert in the space, as the go-to brand or place that people are going to trust in to get what they need. And then how are you going to set up some of those things for the long term? So I'll give you an example. Something we're doing in our business is, focusing on training. And we had a lot of people asking for that, especially last year. Well, that is partly a short term goal and a long term goal for us. The topics might be more relevant to what's happening right now, but the long term goal might to be establish ourselves in a certain space of, marketing or fundraising and sales that we haven't really been in before, but that we know we have the expertise to bring to the table. So it's things like that. We have a kind of a short game and the long game for this. So I challenge you to think about that. Think about different ways that you can diversify your revenue so all your eggs aren't in one basket. That way, if something happens in the market, the needs of the community, that you have a better chance of stabilizing, recovering, and growing than, being in a crisis situation with your business. If you'd like more information on what we do and how we help companies, please visit our website at www.mymabs.com. It's mymabs.com. You can also leave messages here in the comment section, and we're happy to get back to you or answer those or point you in the right direction. So thanks so much for joining me this